Looks like we have a quorum. Welcome to our regularly scheduled TAC meeting for the month of July. So first up, we have approval of the TAC agenda for today. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, next we have the approval of the TAC meeting minutes from June 26th. Make a motion, we approve the meetings from June 26th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, great. Next we have a director's report. Chad.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Technical Advisory Committee members. We have a few updates for you this morning in this report, starting with Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the long-range transportation plan, and the CRP funding for the TIP, and then a couple of studies and upcoming events. So with that, the first one is, first couple are related to Metropolitan Transportation Plan and safety study. Let me request Ashley to present safety plan update status, and then the MTP engagement as well. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. My name is Ashley Briers, and I'm the Transportation Planning Manager here. So the first item, the CSAP, or Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, and the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application. So as you know, we've been working on the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, and part of that work was submitting a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application for a planning and demonstration grant. This was due on July 10th. We actually got it submitted June 30th, so that's good. We included two kind of pots of projects in this project: pilot behavioral strategies and before and after studies. The Kansas SS4A match pilot program is actually providing 15% of the required 20% local match, which is amazing. So that means the local match required is only 5% of the total project. So it's about $56,000. And so we'll hopefully hear if we get this grant in October. And hopefully we do. The Comprehensive Safety Action Plan has been moving forward as well. The plan should be completed in September. We will be having a Safety and Health Committee meeting on August 2nd, where we'll talk a lot more about the implementation strategies and how we'll be moving forward. For the MTP 2050 public engagement update, we are still doing our survey. So if you haven't taken our survey, please do. And we're also going to pop-up events, and we have one more stakeholder listening session. So if you'd like to participate in that, please let us know and we can send you the Zoom link. And that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I want to thank all the member jurisdictions as well, because this project was important for all of us, and City of Wichita, Derby County, and all jurisdictions participated in, what are the projects that are promoting safety for our region? What are the projects that reduce our fatalities on the transportation system? And also Federal Highway Administration have had been awarding so many of the safety grants to so many MPOs and regions. So we want to make sure our jurisdictions are participating and then taking advantage of this, the new wave of giving away funding, particularly in safety grant. Other grant applications, the awards may be competitive and they may not get or get, but the safety grants were always awarded, whoever applied. So that was one of the reasons why staff was diligent in working with each of the jurisdictions. So please stay tuned and work closely with the staff, because at times local match becomes a criteria as well, how much funding we request, and identifying the projects ahead, identifying our local matches. These are the things that help staff put together the application. Also, I want to thank our transportation planning manager, Ashley Briers, for submitting in a timely manner on the day before with the consulting firm coordination and local jurisdictions and coordination. That's that on the item. And the next item we have is a couple of items on public transit and intelligent transportation systems. And we have Marcella and Peter to present.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Marcela Quintanilla, and I'm a GIS and Transportation Data Analyst here at WAMPO. My name is Peter Moore. I'm Principal Engineer here at WAMPO.
And for the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan, we have an open survey and we've been working on updating this plan that focuses on older adults, people with disabilities and low income households. We've been going to the transit center to get some surveys. The survey closes next Monday, so please, if you haven't taken the survey, please do. We currently have 164 surveys and we're still going to be going to the transit center this week and write some routes and see if we can get the input from people. If anyone from other jurisdiction has any event that we can go this week, we're happy to be going. And for the, I'm also going to be talking about the intelligent transportation system. We are in very early stages of updating this plan, and the purpose of the regional intelligent transportation system plan architecture is to illustrate and document regional integration so the planning and deployment can take place in an organized and coordinated fashion. ITS projects funded through the Highway Trust Funds are required to conform to the national ITS architecture. So we're just starting to talk. If anyone is interested, please let us know. And
Yes, we're at the beginning stages here, so we're going to try to build a steering committee. So I may be talking to some of you, or if you're interested, please let us know. We'd love to have you part of this process.
thank you.
Peter and Marcel, Peter, could you please share with us the travel time data and average speeds that you're interested in obtaining?
Yeah, so part of some of our performance measures that we do is and managing our congestion is trying to figure out where the problems are. So some of the data that we'd like to coordinate and part of our intelligent transportation systems would just be traffic speeds, traffic counts, average daily, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the annual average daily traffic, AADT. It's always that's how it's always on the sheet, but we want to get these different pieces of data, and there's a lot of disparate systems that have this, and we want to try to connect them together. So we have which way. I know the city of Wichita has different traffic signal data that they have. I have data from the federal government. So part of this rather large project is this smaller area, but we want to connect all these systems together, figure out how they work, get contacts, and try to build our intelligent transportation systems. So we know what's communicating with what and how to get information to everyone that needs it.
Thank you so much, Peter and Marcel. Any questions? The next item we have is Dora Gayo presenting on electric vehicle plan process and Bike-Ped event that's upcoming. Thank you, Dora.
Good morning. My name is Dora Gayo, Transportation Planner here at WAMPO. So currently WAMPO is working on developing their electric vehicle plan. The plan will outline the first steps the region can take to support and encourage electric vehicle adoption, and then through the course of action to provide EV charging infrastructure. And right now we're in the public engagement phase and we have a survey out. It's been out for a month and it'll terminate at the end of August on 31st. And so far we have 237 completed surveys. Awesome. And Bike-Ped counts. Currently, we have an annual, every year we do bike and ped counts at various locations throughout multiple cities. And currently we need volunteers. So if anybody, or if you would like to, I know Hayesville reached out personally and asked to send them the flyers so they can get some people signed up, and they already have a couple on there. So highly, very appreciative of that. So if anybody else would like to share this, please do so. There's a link, and then, or you can go to our website and sign up through there. Any questions? Oh, the dates are September 13th, 14th, and 15th.
Thank you, Dora. Appreciate it.
Oh, sorry, that's just, what? Oh, it's the 16th. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, the last item we have is, you have seen the carbon reduction program funds last TAC meeting that went to TPB for approval. So Peter will keep us informed on the status of the TPB.
So on the PowerPoint slide, you can see the 5 projects that the Project Selection Committee chose to award funding to. We presented those to the Transportation Policy Board on July 11th. And just to give you an update, there was a concern raised regarding the $1 million of CRP award for the EV charging components of the multimodal facility. A little bit of asterisk, the lion's share of that $1 million will go to EV charging infrastructure for passenger vehicles. But though there is a small component of that that'll go to other things that could qualify for CRP fundings like bike storage and bike lockers and things. But the lion's share will go to EV charging infrastructure. The concern regarded the placement of these EV chargers at this location. There is currently a committee, our EV vehicle committee, that is developing a plan for where best to place EV charging infrastructure in the region. And awarding these funds now may be premature. That was the concern brought up at the TPP meeting. Ultimately related to the timeline of both the EV charging committee with actually coming up with a concrete plan of where to best put EV chargers and when we need to get this funding awarded, which I think was about August. Am I correct, Ashley? Okay. The committee voted to approve the PSC's tax CRP funding recommendations with the proviso that if it is discovered that the multimodal facility is a poor location for EV charging station, the funding be pulled back. Any questions for me on that?
Please go ahead, Ashley.
We have a comment from David Schwartz. That KDOT has data on counts and speed they can share. That was great.
Yeah, thank you. The comment was that David Schwartz from Kansas Department of Transportation shared with us that KDOT has data on, travel times and average speeds on corridors. So staff will get in touch with David. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. With that report, Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chad and staff for all the reports. Next, we have public comment. Are there any comments from the public? Online or in the room? Seeing none, we'll move on to action. We have 2 action items today. The first one is a federal fiscal year 2023-2026 TIP amendment number 4. Peter and Nick.
Okay, so I'll go through you just an overview of the different projects that have been put into the amendment here. So quick, our timeline, we had our public comment period from June 30th to July 14th. We did not receive any public comments, which brings us to this meeting today. On the link at the bottom of the PowerPoint, it can get you directly to the full amendment documentation. In some, there's 16 projects in Amendment 4 that have requested changes that will require TAC recommendation and TPP approval, along with 15 other projects that had smaller administrative changes that will give notice for, but don't require TAC recommendation or approval. Smaller things like small cost changes, things of that nature. Here is a map of all of the projects. In red are the ones, the Amendment 4 projects, and then the green and the blue are the ones that are requiring just administrative changes. And on my next slide here, we'll go through the 16 projects that require TAC recommendation. First, we have the Rock Road corridor improvements to extend the project limits, edit the scope a bit. There was an increase in the cost estimate from the city of Keachai at the Oliver and Keachai Road intersection, changed the scope and changed some of the funding buckets from surface transportation block grant to TA funding. From Valley Center, we have the Meridian Avenue project, which had administrative adjustment in 3.1. We moved some funds around from HIP to KDOT STBG funds, and we did edit the scope, and there was a small increase in cost. We have the Wichita Intelligent Transportation System along the 21st Street. They extended the project limits and edited the scope. We have the Reconnecting Communities study from the city of Wichita, which will study how the railroad crossings along 21st Street have disconnected those different communities along that corridor and how best to address that problem. The next, I think it's 10 KDOT projects that I have here. The first one here was an extension to the bridge replacement, if I'm correct, Michael, on number 305 on ramp I-135. They added some bridge maintenance on bridge number 302 to that project as well. And then the next projects we have are all bridge maintenance, redecking, painting, things of that nature. So bridge number 46, located about 4.46 miles north of I-35, new project. On K96, bridge 271 and 272. We have bridge maintenance on number 299 on I-35, bridge number 48 on I-35. And then bridges number 304 and 306 on US 54, bridge 303 at I-35 and US 54 at the interchange. And then we have bridge number 118 on US 54. And then we have bridges number 331, 334, and 336 on US 54 near Eisenhower Airport. And then we have bridge number 49 located about 7.5 miles north of the I-235, I-35 junction. Then we have the preliminary planning phase project of the east of the US 54 East Kellogg expansion. They're just editing the scope, and this is just the preliminary planning phases of that project. And then finally, we have the FTA 5310 program had a modification to their project. They added local and FTA 5310 funding in fiscal year 2025 and 2026, and decreased local and FTA 5310 funding for capital and fiscal year 2023. And yeah, I think that's an exhaustive list of all those different projects we're adding to the amendment. Nick is gonna follow up here with some more of the details.
In the table you see on the screen right now, there is a summary of all of the projects in this amendment and the corresponding administrative adjustments that change any of the local, state, or federal funding levels. Overall change in local funding is $2,473,031. State funding for projects is increased by $6,226,700. Federal funding is increased by $21,204,170 for a grand total increase of $29,904,001. This includes the new projects, the modified projects, and the administratively adjusted projects, which are the ones with asterisks after their IDs.
Question, Nick,
Yeah.
on the change in federal funding, is it 21,204,270 or 170?
270. Did I?
Thank you.
These amendments and administrative adjustments also included changes to WAMPO sub-allocated funding on projects. However, no project's overall amount of WAMPO sub-allocated funding was changed. The Douglas Seneca to Meridian project in Wichita had a portion of its funding moved back through AC conversion from 2024 to 2025 in order to ensure that projected balances at the end of FFY 2024 would not be negative. And the project Seneca and 63rd Street pathway in Hayesville was moved back from FY 23 to FY 24 because they reported to us that they would not be able to obligate until October of this year. And then, as shown on here, several other projects had their amounts of suballocated funding from the various programs shifted between them in order to increase the amounts of transportation alternatives funding on the projects and decrease other funding programs used. This is because we received information from the project sponsors regarding how much of their project costs would qualify for TA funding. For example, building a multi-use path alongside a roadway project, so that we could get optimum use of these funding sources for the purposes for which they are allowed, so that we would not wind up with too little STBG and CMAQ money and too much TA money at the end. And that is what this is reflecting here. And as you can see, it does not change the overall amount of WAMPO suballocated funding on any project. We completed a public comment period from June 30th to July 14th this year. Although we did not receive any comments from the general public regarding this, we did receive word during the public comment period from the city of Wichita that they needed one project to be added during the public comment period to the formal amendment. That is the project shown here of Reconnecting Communities Study 21st Street corridor from I-135 to Broadway, Wichita, Kansas. That was the new project that was added for that in order to use Reconnecting Community Program funds. And then the other project that I mentioned in the discussion of suballocated funds was we added an administrative adjustment during the public comment period for the city of Hayesville to move the Seneca and 63rd Street path project back from 2023 to 2024. So those were both changed during the public comment period, and we updated the public comment materials accordingly for that. This change was conducted on the 11th of July. All changes are consistent with the current Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Reimagined Move 2040, and the TIP remains fiscally constrained as of this amendment, both of which are requirements of the federal government. And the overall financial impact, as shown on 2 slides ago, is $29.9 million split between local, state, and federal funds, with the increase in federal funds for all projects combined and all sources combined is $21,204,270. Sorry, $21,204,270. This is an action item. Your options are to recommend the TPB approve the TIP amendment as presented, recommend they not approve it, or recommend they approve it with specific changes. As usual, the recommendation of WAMPO staff is that you approve it as presented. Are there any questions?
See no questions. Thank you, Peter and Nick. So I'll go and make a motion that we recommend the TPB approval for the 2023-2026 TIP amendment number 4 as presented. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the 2023 transit safety targets. Ashley?
Thank you. The federal government has laid out several performance measures that we need to report on, and they are listed in this table here. And this is our last federal performance measure that we needed to set a target for. Our first one was the PM1 highway safety, and PM2 pavement and bridge condition, and PM3 system performance. We approved those targets all in March of 2023. And then the transit asset management, or TAM, that was approved in April. And now, hopefully with your recommendation of approval today, we will be going to TPB in August for approval of the safety targets. So under the FTA's Public Transit Agency Safety Plan, transit agencies needed to create a safety plan and set targets. Wichita Transit set transit safety targets in 2022, and they're utilizing the same targets for 2023 because there have not been any major changes to their routes, ridership, or equipment. We received these targets on June 16th, and so we have 180 days to set them as our targets. We're going to go ahead and just do it now rather than waiting until December. So in coordination with Wichita Transit, WAMPO has chosen to support Wichita Transit's targets for the WAMPO region. So these are the targets, and these were actually selected by Wichita Transit on December 29th as part of their safety committee meeting. Luckily, there have not been any fatalities on the fixed route or paratransit. And so the only actual numbers, or I guess 0 is a target, but the ones that actually have numbers are towards the end of the table. And so VRM is vehicle revenue miles. So we're looking at injuries per 100,000 vehicle revenue miles, safety events, which are collisions, derailments, fire, hazardous material spill, act of nature, evacuation, or other things that occur on the transit right-of-way, in a transit revenue facility, in a maintenance facility, or on a revenue vehicle. And then we have safety events per 100,000 vehicle revenue miles, and then vehicle revenue miles per major system failure. And a major system failure is a mechanical failure. And these are just for fixed route and paratransit because those are the modes that Wichita Transit has. So the action options today are to recommend the TPB approve the 2023 transit safety targets as presented, or not approve them, or approve with specific changes. And the staff recommendation is to approve as presented. Any questions?
All right, I don't see any questions for you, Ashley. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll go make a motion that we approve the TPB approve the 2023 transit safety targets for the WAMPO region as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you, Ashley. All right, next we have discussion and updates. KDOT Safety Corridor Pilot Program, I-135 Safety Corridor, Newton to Park City. Ashley and David.
Thank you. So we've asked David to present about this project because it runs through our area, and we're very happy that David was able to attend today. So I'll turn it on over to David. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm calling in from my office here in Topeka, but I'm glad that technology allows me to talk a little bit with you this morning. If I was very absent-minded and didn't include a map of the safety corridor. So real quick before we start the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Oh, you guys may have to allow me permission to share my screen. Is that possible, or we can skip it otherwise?
There you go. You should be able to now.
All right. All right, can you see that?
No.
Oh, I haven't hit share yet. Can you see that?
No.
No. It should say I-135 safety corridor.
Let me stop. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Yes, now we can.
All right, great. Okay, so we start over or start, but anyway, this is one of 4 safety corridors that were chosen for this pilot project by KDOT. And so the corridor that we're talking about starts north of Newton on I-135, where K-15 has an interchange with 135. So it goes all the way through Newton, and then but right here at the junction with I-235 and K-254, the North Junction. So that's the southern end of the corridor going through Park City and Valley Center. And let's see, everybody kind of got a picture of where it is. I'll have you take over and show my presentation back in Wichita. Oh, I'll stop share. Yeah. Okay, I can see your screen. Can everybody else?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so go ahead and advance. Hey, you changed the date too. Anyway, sorry. So just real briefly, this is a presentation that we made to our Drive to Zero Coalition, which is our group of safety leaders here in Kansas that works with KDOT to help us make decisions and get the word out about the safety efforts. So real quickly, schedule review, a little bit about our communications plan, a little bit about the focus group meeting that we had for each corridor, and some corridor plans and an education campaign. Go ahead. This is the schedule. Yeah, I've reused this slide. We're a little farther out than May, but right now, I guess the big thing to report is that the signs are about to be installed on the corridors. I know that press releases have gone out, and so very soon you should be seeing on this 135 corridor big yellow signs that denote that this is a safety corridor and that there will be a little extra enforcement. And I guess the other thing about the schedule is that we have collected data beforehand so that we can, is like speeds, get an idea of how noting this as a safety corridor changes driver behavior. Also, we did a seatbelt observational survey too, so that we'll be able to compare before and after what kind of effect that had. Go ahead to the next slide. And this is just a little bit more about the corridor. There you can see the 2 different kinds. The ones you'll see on 135 are the larger signs on the bottom, the more horizontal oriented. The upper ones, those will be on the other corridors, which tend to be 2 lanes. I guess US 24 in Northeast Kansas is a 4-lane highway for part of it. But anyway. So yeah, here we are in July, we're installing the signs, and then the media campaign will also begin. We wanted to coordinate that with other legacy media campaigns that we have, like, You Drink, You Drive, oriented around the holidays, especially the big summer holidays like 4th of July, and then up. So not to say that we're not going to start enforcing until September 23rd, but the actual extra overtime enforcement will begin in earnest in September. And this is a 5-year pilot. So we're not just going to do this for one construction season. We want to have a look at this for 5 years. Not to say that we won't add other safety corridors in that time period, but we want to give a good look. And usually with safety, it takes multiple years to really be able to determine the impact from a crash standpoint. So I guess I should back up and say the overall objective here is to drive down fatal and serious injury crashes. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, among the many other things that we do in the safety arena and at KDOT. Next slide. So yeah, then this is a little look at our communications plan, probably more information that you want to know, but as we've got public affairs managers all over the state, they've been enlisted to be involved in this as well. There you'll see messaging on our dynamic message signs that will reinforce the message. And again, that all the message is, hey, this is a safety corridor, and we'd like you to pay a little better attention, and it's gonna receive more enforcement from the Kansas Highway Patrol and local authorities as well. Go ahead, next slide. This is a little bit more about the communications plan. We have, certain groups that are more receiving about everything that we produce, and then and there's a secondary group that's more peripheral, I guess you could say, and they also receive, but maybe not as much, not as often, some of our communications about the corridor and things like that. And then also, as the school year approaches, our novice drivers, sometimes they contribute to the safety issues in a corridor. We're reaching out to them as well. Next slide. This is a sample of some of the messaging that we are getting out there. And some of it's not exclusive to safety corridors. The buckle up, phone down is something that we're trying to get out the word, but hey, it might as well do it in a safety corridor as well. Yeah, there's at the bottom, the message is, together we can save lives in Kansas. Everybody needs to do their part, so drive safely in the corridor. Next slide. This is a little bit more about the evaluation plan. You can see some of the different data that we plan to collect and then compare before and after the initiation of the pilot. One part that we're having a little trouble with is connected vehicle data. We know it's out there. It's just the matter of finding the right vendor to get a hold of that data. But whether you realize it or not, data is being collected by your insurance company, by your automaker, about how fast you drive, how hard you brake, I think maybe even like how hard you steer. So that could be a really good precursor to crashes. I mean, meaning that they might predict where crashes are going to happen without having to wait for one to happen. So we might be able to identify safety, hard side safety improvements, better and more effective use of our safety dollars than just waiting for crashes to happen or people to complain about a safety issue. Next slide. So we did have a focus group meeting for I-135, as we did with the other 4 corridors as well. And I guess I'll just point out, you can see who was involved in that meeting. A great involvement from law enforcement, from EMS as well. Which way is going to be just really crucial to all the corridors, actually, but especially on this one. One of the things that we heard was that coordination, because there is a county line between Newton and Wichita, that there's some better coordination that could be achieved for this corridor. Oh, that's my 10 minutes. I'll wrap it up here real quickly. And then that we are seeing some crazy, I shouldn't say crazy, but very high speeds on 135. It's a commuter corridor. People get used to it. It's fairly flat, but we're seeing the speeds really creep up there. And what we're concerned about all speeding, but when people are going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, that's very dangerous, risky behavior. And so we're trying to reduce that amount. Different ways that we might be able to do that. Next slide. Here's some of the engineering improvements that we are investigating and actually putting into place on the corridor. That it'll probably go up from that 300,000, not just because of inflation, but we may add some other things, especially as different projects are suggested. So I guess I'll draw your attention to improve the delineators. I know that we heard from EMS that sometimes it's hard to find where the turnarounds are so that you can go the other direction on 135. Those are to be used only by emergency vehicles. So we want to try to get that out there and make it easy for them to respond to crashes on the corridor. Next slide. And okay, and yeah, so the education campaign, I think we'll just really briefly go through this. Go ahead, next slide. There will be a brochure that officers can distribute and that people can get online. And let's next slide. I don't think we want to go through all of the different details of the campaign unless, you know, in the Q&A somebody does want to go through all those. I don't know that that's necessary. Like I said, I borrowed this presentation from an earlier presentation. What I do want to point out is that the link that was provided in your agenda gets you to our webpage where you can find out more about the overall pilot program. And the great thing is that we have a dashboard for each one of the 4 safety corridors where you can go and look at this crash data yourself. You can see, well, maybe there are some clusters of crashes that happen around a certain interchange that you're familiar with. We put that out there as a tool for law enforcement so that they can figure out their plan for enforcing speeds and other you know, traffic violations, things like that, and you know, to try to be data driven. And as the time goes on, we'll be able to use those dashboards to see whether we're making a difference on the corridor. I want to end by saying, you may have questions, you know, is 135 the most crash prone corridor in Kansas? No, it's not. But it was selected as when we selected the 4 corridors, we tried to get a mix of different roadway types. So this is our only interstate safety corridor. And then we tried to get a geographic distribution because the more we spread this out throughout the state, the more people we have thinking about safety and these corridors. So I don't want to imply that you know, 135 is somewhat worse or more difficult to negotiate than other corridors, but that's just one of the ones that we chose. When the media came out about these, they used the label dangerous. And of course, at KDOT, we never like to describe any of our routes as dangerous, but it doesn't hurt if the public thinks of the road as dangerous because maybe they'll put a little more caution into their driving. Maybe they'll be a little bit more conscious about what they're doing as they travel on I-135. So just wanted to throw that in there. And if we have time, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions for David? I'm not seeing any. I appreciate your presentation on this.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Yep, there's my contact information if you have any questions.
All right, great, thank you. All right, next we have the 2024 UPWP planning. Chad, Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is 2024 UPWP, and as you all know, staff coordinates with Federal Highway Administration, FTA, KDOT, and jurisdictions, balances between the deadlines and timelines the federal needs, as well as the needs of the local jurisdictions. We put together, you know, the future projects that's planned in 2024. Some of our continuation of the 2023 projects. So let me request our transportation planning manager, Ashley Bryers, to highlight some of the things in this. Thank you.
Thank you. As Chad mentioned, the UPWP or Unified Planning Work Program is our budget. So just wanted to go through what we're planning on working on and to ask you if you have any thoughts about things we should work on next year. But first, we need to talk about our core document status. So we have 5 items that we are federally required to do. And so we want to provide an update as to where we are on each of these 5. So as you know, we're working on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The first phase of public engagement is occurring now, and the plan will need to be approved by June of 2025. So we're shooting for a May of 2025 approval. The Transportation Improvement Program has quarterly amendments, and we will be working on the new TIP next year, the federal fiscal year 25 to 28 TIP. Unified Planning Work Program, this document should be approved in November. The Public Participation Plan was approved in 2022, so we're good there for about 5 years. The congestion management process is part of the travel demand model update, and that process is occurring now and should be done around April of 2024. So these are potential activities that we would like to work on next year. We actually have a ton of things in our 2023 UPWP, and so most of them will carry on to 2024. And we don't have very many new items for us to include. But the first one is the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. This plan should be done in the third quarter. If we receive that SS4A grant, then we'll need to incorporate that into the UPWP, and that would be a consultant who would help us. We're also working with KDOT to develop a regional transportation safety coalition. So we need to include time to work on that. As I mentioned, travel demand model and congestion management, I'll skip that one. Economic development study, that kicked off in 2023, and it's actually a 3-year project. So we'll continue working on it in 24. The Regional Active Transportation Plan, this will be done in coordination with the Wichita Bike Master Plan, but it is a separate process and we're waiting for their plan to finish. So we probably won't start on it in 2023. So it'll begin in 2024. The Intelligent Transportation Systems Architecture, as you heard, we are starting that process now. So will not be completed this year. Safe Routes to School Planning Assistance. We are very excited to start working on this project. We received some suballocated funding for the project, and it's federal fiscal year 2024 suballocated funding. So we will start the agreement process with KDOT in October of this year, and then probably start the procurement process in January. I'm going to skip the MTP. Bike-Ped counts, we'll do that. And then the development of the new TIP. The Wichita Transit Network System redesign, staff is involved in that process. The Regional Transit Implementation Plan, that contract was just signed at the TPV meeting, so we're getting going on that. The electric vehicle planning process may continue into 2024, depending on how it goes. The video creation services, we just signed a contract for that, but it's just for 2023, and we're planning on extending it through 2024 and 2025. Accounting services we may not need. And then with the City of Wichita Reconnecting Communities grant, I'm sure staff will be a part of that process. Then those 3 bullets were things that we thought of after the staff report was put together. So the Greater Wichita Bike Map will probably be continued for 2023. Food access planning, we're working with the health department and with Wichita State on this. And then the K-15 corridor study, we're going to be providing some CPG funding to the K-15 corridor study. And so then staff time as well. So are there any other tasks that you think we should include in next year's budget? And it's okay if you don't have ideas.
When would you need to know? Today or like next month or?
So this will be going to the August TPV meeting as well for the same, just kind of any tasks to consider. So probably about first or second week of August would be good, because then we'll start the public comment period on the document.
Okay, great. So if anybody comes up with anything, just let Ashley or Chad know in the first or second week of August.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. And as you can see, this is a comprehensive list, and each of these projects are just amazing and incredible projects they are. Also want to recognize how this technical committee members had been greatly helpful in, when the funding is limited, there was always this creativity of what are the projects in our region that make a difference. Consistently, WAMPO Technical Advisory Committee had been greatly helpful in making those decisions. They were difficult decisions oftentimes. The project needs were many, and the funding was limited. One example I'll share with you, while everything in this list that Ashley are important, there's one that that I recollect from Regional Economic Area Partnership. They're looking to see how can regional transit plan can be implemented. How does it look like? For example, when staff visited Amazon, there were some employees there, coming from Derby, transit, the smooth transit from one jurisdictions to the other. There are, these jurisdictions that boundaries that can at times cause difficulties to public at times. There was a conference I attended that I want to share with you that National Association of Regional Councils, they awarded a region, Albany, Oregon, state of Oregon, that found a creative ways of making this smoother, despite all these jurisdictions and all. So we have this study, Regional Transit Implementation Plan, that, as Ashley was mentioning, was approved, the contract. So I would just want to share with you, we have 1 year for this study to be completed. Again, we have great and creative minds in here. We'll keep an eye on how, despite all challenges and difficulties like any project, how do we come together and see something can be like a regional implementation where all jurisdictions enjoy serving public is what I want to share that with you. And then thank you, Ashley.
All right, thank you, Chad and Ashley. So definitely a lot of projects it's gonna be work on. All right, next we have the committee and partnership updates. Wichita Transit, Nate.
Good morning, Nate Hinkle with Wichita Transit. Just as a little bit of a segue from talking about transit access in the region, we are currently working on the system redesign project. We put that out for bid earlier this spring, and we received 3 proposals, and we interviewed all 3 of those consultants last week. Received some very good feedback, ideas, and we'll be, making a selection in the near future on that. But we feel encouraged about what we saw from the consultants from those interviews. So that will be a kind of a deep dive into our current transit system, analysis of opportunities, things that we can do, whether it's expanding routes or into other parts of the region with different funding models and so forth. So be a good opportunity to take a fresh approach, look at everything. Last time I talked to you in April, we were looking at starting some new summertime activities or routes, such as the museum loop on the Q line and bringing back the ride program for youth. Happy to say that those have been very successful. We've had several thousand rides per month with all of those services. And ridership on the Q line is up about 44% year over year from last year. So people are getting out this summer and utilizing those services. Also, fixed route ridership is up about 28% year over year overall. So that's a trend we've seen all year. We're approaching numbers that we've seen in 2019. So we're happy to see that. As we wrapped up the school year from 22-23 for Wichita State and Wichita Public Schools, we had over 349,000 rides for that school year. So students continue to be a huge impact on our overall ridership, and we're certainly going to be continuing those partnerships come this next school year. And with that, we just have some other activities going on at Transit, looking at making Route 24 free, continuing through the summer. Updates on the safety management systems implementation, smart card ticketing that will be rolling out probably this summer as well. So just a few other things. And if anybody has questions on anything, happy to answer. Yes. It's a slightly increased, but it's not, I guess, exceptionally higher than it was. But we have been providing free rides on that, and let's see, as of June 30th, since we implemented that route being free, we've had nearly 40,000 rides. 39,856 through June 30th that we've been providing free on Route 15.
I don't see any other questions.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next we have other business. We have none. And then before we adjourn, I just want to point out, I know on all of our tables here, we have the QR codes for different surveys, electric vehicle, Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050, and the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. So I think that's a great idea, putting these on the cards for people to take home, and please share these with your communities to take the surveys. And that brings us to adjournment. Make a motion, we adjourn to today's meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Have a great day.